This video is going to take you through the Saturn S-Series shifter cable problem. The first thing to know is that it can break, and often does, without any warning. While the plastic in the picture that you see under the shifter tower can break, more commonly it's the lower cable where the jacket separates from the crimp and then you lose all ability to shift. A third problem happens when the clip is bent or damaged when it's removed to take off the transmission, change the clutch, or replace the shifter cables. Whenever the clip is removed, it's supposed to be replaced with a new one for this reason. But if you're very careful and you remove it, you can put it back in and it will work fine. About 10 years ago, after replacing the clutch, the top clip popped out several months later, and I lost several gears until I bought another clip and put it in. Most people don't realize that when your shifter cable breaks, you can still shift the car by hand. With the engine off, you can shift back into neutral, and you can shift into any other gear. For example, you could shift into first gear, start the car up with the clutch in, and drive away. You could pull over at the top of a big hill, shut the car off, switch into third gear, and start out that way to get home. Now let's take a look at the shifter in operation so you see where the gears are. First, I'll move the shift lever from side to side in neutral. Then I'll begin going through the gears. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, and reverse. One of the main reasons the bottom cable fails is because it does almost all of the work of shifting. When you move the lever with your hand, if you're having trouble, roll the car slightly and then try again. A few days ago when the towing guy showed up, I was parked at the curb and there was a car in front and in back of me. The car was in fifth gear and I didn't realize this, and the towing guy used it to pull out of the parking space and burn the clutch in the process. With what I now know, I would have just shifted the car into first gear. So, the next thing to do is confirm that you have this problem. Look for the frayed cable in the engine compartment like you see here, or if you don't, lift up the shifting tower, take the plastic off and look under there, see if the plastic's broken. So if your shifter won't shift into any gears at all, then most likely your lower cable has slipped out of the jacket, and that's what I'm going to cover here. So to replace the shifter cable, the first thing you're going to do is open up the hood and remove the vent tube. Inside, our first step is going to be remove the center console, and to do that we're going to remove the right and left kick panels. There'll be a screw behind each of them. We'll take that screw out, so that's 2 front screws. Now on the station wagon you pop up the little cover and then you remove these 2 screws. Before you remove the plastic console, be sure to unplug the cigarette lighter and the little bulb that goes to it. Also, the cup holder has a little wire with a light. You want to just pull that back and it will pop out. And gently lift the entire plastic console. Move the emergency brake or the shift forward or backwards in order to get the cover off. Put an extension on your ratchet. Put a deep 13mm socket on the end. Remove the 2 13mm nuts. Put a 10mm socket on and remove the one in front, which is the little hold down. Now remove the 2 13mm nuts in the back of the shift tower and very carefully lift it up. The next thing you're going to want to do is turn the shifter tower upside down in order to remove the 2 cables. This rubber grommet goes all the way through. So I just got on this side and with a little bit of prying I was able to pop it off. Fork tool, and I use that plus a pry bar. So I'd lift with the fork tool, slip the pry bar in, pry that, and just kind of do the 2 things and it popped off. When you put this on, very important to put the silicone or lithium-based grease inside here and lube the ball. Then I took a C-clamp like this, and with very little effort, I turned it and it popped right on. Kate stuff before you remove it. You never know when you might potentially need to reuse a part, like a grommet or something. So I like to be careful even when I take the old one off. For people say the plastic breaks, I've never had it break. I've never had a problem. I've owned this car for 20 years. Like I said, other people broke that lower part of the cable. I had to really work hard. I had to take the shift tower out. I had to pry against this. Now, as an alternative, what you could do is heat this plastic part up and soften it a lot and take it off that way. Do it with a heat gun. Time to go under the hood and remove the two clips, which are identical on the end of each of the cables. Next, we'll remove the two U-shaped clips. When you remove these clips, first spray WD-40 in here, lubricate them, move them clockwise and counterclockwise just a little bit. Push on the back side of the cable towards you and help take pressure off that clip. And if you're very careful taking it out, you'll be able to reuse it with no problems. Here's what things look like underneath the car. 6 years ago, when the mechanic replaced the cable, he removed the grommet and never replaced it. I applied silicone grease to the edge of the hole to make it easier for the cables to slide through. I also lubed up the old cables themselves to make it easier for them to be pulled through the hole. It's important to remember there's a rubber grommet. It's hard to see. You don't have to put the cables under the carpet. You can run them right across the top. Also, I did not screw in the rubber grommet. It's just too much effort. And the professional that did it, that charged over $600, didn't do it either. And it lasted fine. Now, when you pull this back, and that's why it's important, since the grommet won't go through the firewall, you pull it back from here, but this is important. You don't yank the cable out this way. You can begin to pull it this way. Well, what you're going to do is pull it back a little ways. Then you're going to take this end and pull it out here. And you're going to take this and pull it out here. So you're actually almost like you're pulling in the middle. You don't want to damage these wires, and the rubber grommet isn't going to fit through here. So it's important that this is actually going to be pulled this way and then come out, and you pull this like that. I lubricated the entire new shifting cable, which was about $88 from AutoZone, with silicone grease. I fed one cable at a time through the firewall. Now it's important when you take these and are passing them through, we're putting the new cable through the firewall, that when you slide it through here, it's going to catch on things or it's going to hit here. So you need to get out of the car, come down under here. Before you hook these up, make sure that you put the boot completely over this before you put this and put the clip in here. Because otherwise you'll struggle because it's not easy to reach. Here's a look from below. So if you had an assistant that could help push this thing forward, remember they want you to drop these in the hole, push them forward and keep it flat, don't have it tilted, then gently slide the clip in. Easy, but you want to lubricate these clips completely with silicone grease before installing them, and the round part and this. It's very important to take this and pull this way towards you. As little strain as possible on the clip. Then I went back inside the car, and I don't have exact pictures of this step, but what I did is feed the cables under the console. Then I took a long pry bar and I pushed the rubber grommet piece as close to the firewall hole as possible. Before you put them on, be sure that you don't have any wires or any problems and that your cables are not twisted one over another. Even before hooking it up, you can move the cables with your hand, make sure they move freely. Also, this may be facing the wrong way. Instead of facing like this, it may be twisted that way. I moved the cable in and out, back and forth, and rotated it to get it to where it stayed, where it should be. Then I installed it. It helps if you don't install the cable clips at the very end of the cables where they meet the transmission, because it makes it easier to move these ends around, getting them to face where they need to, and then you hook up at the transmission. Once you bolt the shift tower down, and you bolt this down, and I recommend putting this on first, but if you put it on in a different order, you can move this, which will move one cable or the other, allowing you to get each one under there correctly, and then you tighten that down. You don't want to over tighten it because it goes into a very small metal clip. Over here, first gear, second gear, neutral, all right, third, fourth. And here's the problem where people get into trouble. Reverse. Like that, and you hear the weird sound. Alright, so first, second, third, fourth, well, I forgot fifth over here. Electric grease, or some people call it dielectric grease. It's just a silicone-based grease for electric components that's resistant to water and moisture. Grease these plastic parts like this because they snap into place better, and they reduce the risk of damage, and you get a better fit. You have to connect the cigarette lighter before you put the plastic in, although you could probably reach it from the kick panel. This, for the cupboard holder, you could connect it later if you want to leave the wire out, or set it on top, put the plastic in place, and then pop it into place. So after you do this procedure, the most likely thing to go wrong is the upper clip may be distorted and may get loose and could come off, so you should monitor that. Currently, it's been 5 days and 80 miles, and the car is shifting perfectly. Good night and good luck.